Melodic ear training, we're going to discuss, we're going to build off of yesterday's lesson, which was working on a major triad, tension 2. And I thought that today would be fun to use that to explore the Lydian dominant sound. Okay, I say Lydian dominant because the way we approach it, it kind of doesn't make sense to call it that. It also kind of does. We're going to be working over a dominant chord with a sharp 11. But the root note of our dominant chord is not going to be the most stable note, and the root note of the melodic minor scale is not going to be the most stable note, and the fourth note of the melodic minor scale is not going to be the most stable note. If you know your jazz theory and you know about Lydian dominant, a lot of the rules are not going to play the way they're supposed to, but we are going to be playing over a dominant chord with the sound of a sharp 11. Same pitches as Lydian dominant. You'll see what I mean once we get into it. But let's just start real laid back. I just want to get some ear training happening, listening to our quadratonic. If you need the PDF, okay, if you're kind of new to our approach and the melodic triads and you need to see these this quadratonic charted out, you can check the PDF, links in the description. It's a major triad tension 2. It's the same one we worked on in yesterday's lesson. Let's start it in C. So let's start simple. So this is all about ear training right now and mainly listening. You can try and play along with me if you want, or you can just kind of put your guitar down and listen. I'm just going to play around with the C major triad alone for a minute with no tension 2. Okay, we're just going to kind of look at the steel frame of this building. No exterior walls, no windows, no furniture, no paint, just the steel frame. Going to be very boring, but it's going to help us make sense of tension 2. Right, that's the 1 and the 5 of the triad. The 1 and the 5 are like a seesaw. The 1, just like with our chords, with tonic dominant, 5-1, you know, like a 2-5-1, right? That feeling of tension resolution. The 5 lifts us up, and the root kind of body slams us back down. Same is true with our individual notes. If you've done sort of classical training and you've studied in college, you might be aware of this as so-do. So. Might seem like a silly point to make, but if you pay attention to a lot of bebop, very often the lines start with so, do. Like, go check out Charlie Parker tunes, you'll be surprised how many phrases he has in his tunes. 5-1, okay? Pick somebody up, grab their attention, slam them back onto the ground. It's just a seesaw. That's the emotional quality of the triad. Again, I'm not asking you to sing intervals here. That can be helpful for ear training, but I like to do more emotion, functional ear training that kind of gets me internally in alignment with the feel of the notes. Right, the third is this very soft, sweet, lovely round note. A tiny little bell. Ding. There's our tension 2. Tension 2 is very unsure, very gentle. It might seem goofy, but if there's nobody around you, you might want to try playing around with the quadratonic and doing these body movements. It seems weird, but there's something very visceral and physical about feeling music inside of your body, sort of attributing a movement, a body movement, a facial expression to a sound. Okay, it's not that dissimilar from, like, I have some very young nephews, and my brother and his wife, they're not actively teaching them sign language, but they are at the earlier ages. You know, within under a year, they're showing them a couple of movements like more, food, you know, little things that are extremely helpful to an infant. They don't need to use their words, their mouths to communicate, but they're able to, at a very early age, understand the connection between a body movement and something that they get, or some experience that they want. This is just innate in the human learning system, so we can take advantage of it. We should take advantage of it. Right? These are the feelings, the emotions, the way I interpret them. If you hear them differently, you know, imagine like you're a fiction author, take out a notepad and write down the qualities of each character. Think of these as 4 characters in your story, and come up with the emotions and the qualities and the personalities of them that you feel, because you might experience them differently than I do. But it's a good exercise, okay? It's like full body ear training. Now, what happens to these emotions when we take this completely bare, vulnerable quadratonic and we put it over harmony? Ultimately, nothing. The emotions stay the same, whether it's an upper structure triad or a root structure triad. So if we were to do this over, this is a C major triad, if I were to play this over just a basic C major chord, just C major, no 6, no major 7, try closing your eyes. I'm going to play for a minute. I'm going to play like short little 2 to 3 note phrases, and then I'm going to land on a note and see if you can feel. Don't sing intervals. Do not have your guitar in your hands and do not sing anything. I'm just going to play short little phrases, and I'm going to land on a note, and I'm going to try and accentuate the note with the right dynamics to convey the emotion of it, and see if you can feel which of the 4 notes it is. Okay, if you're a little bit unsure, try doing one of the body movements that I just showed you, and if it feels right, then go with it, and then I'll tell you what note it was. I'll play it a couple of times in a row, but keep your eyes closed. Don't watch the fretboard, and then I'll tell you what it is. Okay, or once you guess, of course, you can open your eyes and check and see what I was playing. But let's do this for a minute. I think this will be a good way to wake up our ears for the day. So I'm going to put this over a C major chord. We're not doing Lydian dominant yet. This is just root structure C major. Okay, go ahead and close your eyes. Let's try this. That's tension 2. The resolution down to the root note. What note is that? Can you hear it? It should feel like being lifted up in the air and slammed back onto the ground. That's 5 and 1. Okay. unsure it is and it wants to move. That was tension 2 resolving down to 1. Can you feel the emotion of this one? Does it feel like you're being lifted up in the air? Does it feel like you're being slammed on the ground? Does it feel very soft and sweet? Does it feel kind of unsure of itself? This is our nice, soft, sweet major third. We've done that root note. Now check this out. First of all, leave a comment below and let me know how many of those you got right. Did you get them all right? Did you miss them all? Were you kind of somewhere in the middle? Could you feel some of the emotions? Are some of these notes easier to feel than other notes? I will tell you, when I started hearing and thinking this way, certain notes jumped right out at me. Like as soon as I had an ear training teacher that pointed out these emotions and helped me, some of my body movements that I use, I took directly from him, and others are tweaks from him, and others I just made up completely on my own, because we didn't do all 12 notes together, but eventually I got to all 12 on my own. But some of them are super obvious, like just jumped right off the page immediately, and others took me a little while. The difference between hearing the 2 and the 3, that one took me a little while. I used to mix up my 2s and 3s all the time. They're very similar. So let me know how it goes for you, how it went for you in the comment section. Maybe click around and rewind if you're watching this after we were live, and close your eyes and just kind of, play around in that section and try it a few times. Let's put this over a B flat dominant chord. Same exact quadratonic, C major tension 2. Okay, but now I'm going to play B flat and A flat, so root and flat 7 of the B flat chord. Right, for those of you who watched yesterday's lesson. This gives us C, E, and G are the 3 most stable notes in this quadratonic, and when we compare that to a B flat 7 chord, when we put that on top of a B flat 7 chord as though we're a piano player, that C, E, and G are going to give us the 9, the sharp 11, and the 13. So this is a fully extended harmony now, right? We're implying the sound of B flat major, B flat dominant 7. I'm only playing 2 notes, but it's enough to imply it. So we have root 3rd, 5th, 7th, flat 7, and then 9, sharp 11, 13. So this is fully extended. We're using sort of all of the 7 notes of the diatonic scale. But obviously it doesn't sound like we're just running scales or arpeggiating anything. Okay? And the most stable note should be the C note. Can you feel how soft and sweet that note is? 5-1. Feel and hear and make sense of the body movements and the emotions that we were just listening to a minute ago, but now it's over a totally different harmonic background. Can you feel how much this note wants to pull back up to C? That's the B flat note wanting to pull up to C, even though I'm playing over a B flat 7 chord. So the B flat note should function and feel like a flat 7 chord tone over this B flat 7 chord. Let that marinate in your meatball for a minute. Okay, that should have sounded basically like the blues, but what am I actually playing? I'm playing B flat up to C over a B flat 7 chord. So that's the root up to the 9. And then that little slur, which sounds like the bluesy minor third moving up to the major third, is actually sliding from D sharp up to E, which is the natural 11 sliding up to the sharp 11. That's the 5th of the chord, the slide up to the sharp 11. Right, can you hear how C is the most stable still? Okay, these are the kinds of things that I personally will nerd out about for absurd amounts of time. When I was first relearning to play, I did a lot of this work before I was relearning to play, but I was first relearning to play and I only had a limited amount of time and energy where I could actually pick up the guitar and physically hold it before my body just gave out because I was very sick. If you know me, you know that I made the decision to focus entirely on musicianship over technique in the beginning stages. Like, I didn't care about speed, technique. I just needed to get my ears woken up. I wanted to get harmony and melody happening, starting to hear all the elements that, to me, make a great musician. The primary, like the foundation of everything. There's plenty of musicians I love that play with extremely virtuosic technique, but there's also plenty of musicians I love, some of my favorites, who really didn't have the greatest technique. So to me, the technique was not the master key. There was something else that everybody had, whether the technique was there or not, and that was sort of musicianship, for lack of a better word. Could they really hear and personalize everything that they were conveying? Or was it just kind of their fingers moving around? This kind of body movement work, ear training work, exploring how triads work with tension notes, standalone, and then putting that over chords, that's the kind of stuff that fascinated me for months, like just messing around with that kind of stuff, listening, getting it re-internalized, and then starting to figure out ways that I could make things faster. This is a very simple technique, but the idea of can I hold on to 1 or 2 or 3 notes from a basic shell voicing, like I'm not using my sustain pedal now. Like here's the root and the flat 7 of B flat. And can I find a way to make C major tension 2 sit on top of that? Crazy, even when I'm playing the root note in the flat 7. Once our ear gets accustomed to this Lydian dominant sound, the B flat note still wants to pull back up. Okay. If you're new to the system, I wouldn't go much beyond this, but if you're getting into the intermediate or advanced levels of it, you could start adding our secondary tension note. Or our third tension note, you could start adding chromaticism and leading tones. But just explore it. Just treat your ear as like the looking glass that you're trying to peek through the universe with. Okay, the fretboard, seeing the shapes on the fretboard is important. If you can't see the shapes and manipulate them with your fingers, you're not really going to be able to find much with your ear. But you'll be amazed at what presents itself when you really listen. Like when you drop the 1, 3, 5, 7 garbage. It's important. The theory, you have to know the theory. But if that's all you're doing with a dominant 7 chord, then you are missing so much beautiful shit. I don't know how else to put it. Can anyone honestly say that they like the sound of this after the last 20 minutes of really paying attention with the ear to this sound? C tension 2 over B flat 7. Enclosures. It's sort of like a little secret doorway, in the way I think about it, into a universe of harmonic and melodic colors and depth and option. But what makes it so tricky to find is that you have to be willing to put everything you know theory-wise, riffs, scales, you have to be willing to just put that down for a few minutes and just play around with stupidly simple ideas, like a triad. I mean, if you studied music in college, you probably spent, like 2 or 3 days in music theory class on triads, and then it was time to move on. If you've read a music theory book, what do you get, like half a page about triads? 2 pages? And then another 100 pages about all the cool stuff. The cool stuff is learning to use the simple stuff in more interesting ways. Okay? Advanced theory is just all up here. Advanced musicianship is all in here. See the difference? The ear versus the brain. Very difficult to reach the emotional, visceral feeling level of being a human being playing music when you're approaching it from up here. Very easy to find it when you're, I shouldn't say easy, or I shouldn't say very easy. Relatively easy to find it when you're paying attention, especially if you have someone that, like I'm trying to offer here, that's showing you how to do it. Like I'm pointing what direction to walk. Or lost in the rainforest, and I'm like, yeah, you want to go that way. Don't worry about what's over there. Just go over there. Okay? Tomorrow, I thought we would stick with this theme since we did tension 2 in yesterday's lesson. We're doing some ear training with it today. Yesterday was more technique stuff. I thought tomorrow we would do some kind of 5-1 improvisational ideas, but instead of 5-1, it's going to be the tritone sub. It'll be the flat 2 dominant, resolving down to a major and or minor tonic. So we'll stick with this same sound, this Lydian dominant. The reason I think it's almost silly to call it Lydian dominant at this point is because technically speaking, the scale, the key signature, this, you know, the master parent scale that we're working from here with these notes is F melodic minor, okay? But we're not even playing an F note, and if I were to, I think I may have played it at some point, it's a tension note, it wants to move. That's F. Right, because F is the 4 of the C major triad, so it's going to function like the 4 of a scale, and we know that 4s want to resolve down to the 3. So it's weird to think of this as F melodic minor because the F is a tension note. Obviously B flat's not the tension note, right? B flat is the 4th degree of F minor, which is normally how we talk about Lydian dominant, is the 4th degree of a melodic minor scale, or the 4th mode. But the B flat, you heard it, it sounded like it was the flat 7 chord tone wanting to resolve up to C. So we're stuck, if we want to think in terms of theory and scales and modes, things like that, we're stuck thinking that the parent the parent key is F melodic minor, the harmony is built on the 4th degree of F minor, the melody is built on the 5th degree of F melodic minor, but at that point it's so chaotic and nonsensical that, like, what does any of that mean? Why does any of that work? Why can you play the 5th degree over the 4th degree when both the 4th of the scale and the root of the scale are both tension notes melodically? I think it's better to just visualize it from the standpoint of a piano player. Okay, if you have access to a keyboard, try this. If you don't, just trust me that it'll sound epic. Play a basic B flat 1 3 flat 7 in your left hand, right? B flat D A flat, and then just put a C major triad on top of it, and it'll sound gorgeous. All we're doing is we're taking that and we're sort of arpeggiating the C major triad, and then we're adding some tension notes to help bring it to life melodically so that we can play melodies more interesting than resolution to a half step down to the tonic. Yeah, let me know in the comments below if you were able to pick out any of the quadratonic notes when we were doing the ear training. Let me know if the body movements helped, and just play around with this. If you don't have a sustain pedal like I do, you can use a looping pedal to practice. Just, you know, play some really laid back, simple shell voicing stuff. You can do the whole shell voicing, or you can do just root and flat 7 like I was doing a minute ago. Doesn't matter. You can loop that. If you don't have a loop, you can actually just physically play it. Okay. If your left hand technique and right hand picking technique's not good enough to keep all those fingers in place, then you can just play it a couple times and then play a phrase. That's enough to convey the left hand, right hand of the imaginary piano player we're talking about. Left hand, comp, solo. Left hand, comp, solo. If that's too difficult, if you're too early in your guitar playing, move this to the key of E major, or E dominant, I should say, E Lydian dominant. And then you have your open 6th string, and then instead of playing a C major triad over B flat, now you want to play an F sharp major triad over E. Alright, there's our E note. Wanting to pull back up to F sharp even though I'm playing it over an E root note. The E root note is the simplified version of the piano player's left hand. It's not a chord anymore, now it's just a root note, but it's still enough to help convey the relationship between the harmony, the dominant chord, and the melodic structure. But start with no chord. Just start by listening, paying attention to the 4 notes, see how they feel, and see if you can start picking them out by their emotion and their function and the feel of them, versus singing happy birthday every time you hear the first 2 notes, or comparing this note to that. Like, that's fine to do, but I think this is more immediate, because singing intervals, again, just like with theories, singing intervals and remembering what songs are related to this and how that compares, that's all brain thinking, which takes time, which you don't have when you're on a bandstand performing, versus what I'm talking about, which is an emotional experience. Like, you feel something, like the instant I feel sad, I know that I'm sad. I don't have to sit and compare that feeling to some memory I had of a nursery rhyme I sang when I was 6, right? I just know when I'm sad, like you can just feel it, or when I'm unsure, or when I'm, feeling like I'm being picked up in the air. Like, physical experiences, like in the body, emotions and movements, these are immediate. You don't have to think about the feeling of, what's my arm feeling right now? What is that? Oh, I felt this once before. What does this feel like? Oh, I remember it was when I had that itch. Let me scratch it. Right? Like, that's absurd. You just feel itchy and you scratch it. Like, it's a physical sensation. That's kind of what we're looking for with this type of ear training. Okay. Let me know how it went for you in the comments. Hit me with questions in the comments. And tomorrow we will apply this to some sort of dominant tonic resolutions for improvising, but it'll be tritone sub movement. But we'll get into putting it into like a little mini chord change. Cool? Have fun with it. Happy practicing. Hey YouTube, it's Jordan Clemens with NYC Jazz Guitar Master Classes and the Melodic Triad Study Group. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I have a ton of content coming out on YouTube this year. We've been doing daily jazz guitar lessons, so I'm going to be posting videos like this pretty much every day. So if you dug this and you want to follow me, subscribe and make sure that you turn on notifications so that you can watch more videos like this. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in the comment section. Hope to see you in the next video.